this event is such a wonderful way to finish the year, where I can speak to so many people from so many different places. And as Will says, we haven't got like a massive amount of time, so I'm going to begin straight away my talk, which is all about using quizzes in the classroom, which I think is a perfect topic for this time of the year, for the end of term and for the end of 2021. So we're going to be together for half an hour talking about quizzes and doing a little quiz. And as Will said, you're also going to get a free Christmas present from me, where you're going to get a PDF of a quiz that you could maybe take away and maybe use with your students at the end of the year. We're going to begin at the beginning, explaining just very quickly what is a quiz. The reason that I'm going to explain this is because maybe it depends on what type of English you use. In British English, we generally talk about quizzes as competitions or games which involve people asking questions to test your knowledge. Now, I believe that in American English, possibly it's slightly more formal. So a type of test, a type of exam, maybe not an extremely formal test or exam, but in English, in British English, sorry, we've got this idea of a competition or a game. So there is like a fun type of element to it. And that's what I particularly like about quizzes at this time of the year. Because I think that quizzes are a great classroom tool because they've got this great combination of different things. First of all, there is serious content. So we're looking at, for example, maybe grammar, maybe vocabulary, maybe some real world content. But we've also got maximum student engagement, because the students are always like really involved in quizzes because I think they enjoy them. And at the same time, we have minimum anxiety. So a quiz in this sense is not a formal test. It's not a formal exam. You can test your knowledge, but in a very informal, game-like way. And I hope that what we're going to see in this short session is that quizzes are extremely flexible. We can use them for different content, different levels. We can change also the dynamics so that it's students asking students, students asking teachers. So I would say that the starting point for most people, if we're talking about quizzes in the ELT classroom, they're simple quizzes, for example, revolving around grammar or around vocabulary. So, for example, here we have two different examples which come from Kahoot. I will mention Kahoot again later in the talk. I'm sure many of you know and use Kahoot quizzes. You can see that the first one at the top says reading books is more interesting than watching TV. So at a low level, A1 plus, A2, obviously we're testing in an informal way that the students know how to make comparative sentences. So obviously the answer to the first one is the word than. So the students choose that. And we've got a simple grammar test. With question number 4, we've got a vocabulary question. Where do we normally make lunch and dinner? Well, obviously, again, a low-level vocabulary quiz, and the students will choose, of course, kitchen. So that's like, I think, the basic way that many of us use quizzes, and we can obviously change the level according to the level of our students. Meanwhile, I think that most people, when we think of a quiz, we also think of real world content, such as general knowledge, maybe trivia, so slightly less serious content. We could choose a specific subject or topic. So we could choose history. We could choose a quiz about London. We could choose a quiz about Shakespeare. So we simply choose our real world content and make a quiz from that. Now, what I particularly like, and which maybe we don't always do, what I really love in my classes is a combination where we have a look at grammar or vocabulary, but we also have a look at general knowledge and real world content. By the way, an important moment in my talk, I'm going to take my hat off because my head is really hot at the moment, okay? So that's an important moment in the talk. So a combination of grammar and real world content. We'll have a look at this. You can see at the top, it says complete the sentences with the correct form of the present simple passive of the verb in brackets. And don't worry about the other space. So I'd like you to look, if you can, at question number 5. And we're making the passive of the present simple because these are things that are done in 60 seconds. So cups of tea, drink in London. And so obviously with the present simple passive, we would have cups of tea are drunk in London. But what we're going to do is we're going to mix this up and do a little quiz at the same time. What do you think? And I would like you to answer in the chat box. What do you think is the answer? How many cups of tea are drunk in London every minute? Okay, choose a number from the box. By the way, the box is to be, and I am not going to make a joke about to be or not to be, because that would be stupid. Somebody's saying 190 cups of tea. Somebody's saying 21,000, 1 million. Okay, Maria Dolores says 1 million cups of tea are drunk every minute. Okay, would you like to know the answer? We're getting lots of very, very different answers. The answer is, in fact, 14,896 cups of tea are drunk in London every minute. And I'm sure many of them are drunk by Will, who I think is nearby London. So that's our question. Now, what we're doing is we're mixing two things. We're mixing the grammar. Maybe the grammar for some of our students is really easy, but we've still got an element to keep them interested because maybe they know the grammar, but maybe they don't know the answer, which I would not be surprised if they didn't know the answer. So we're keeping them interested, keeping them motivated, and giving a bit of trivia. We can do the same for vocabulary. We've got words connected with television and online video. I'd like you to look now at sentence number 9. It says the first ever to win the talent show America's Got Talent was only 11 years old. First of all, we have to find what is the correct word in the box to complete that sentence. Right, Dominica was extremely quick. That's great. The correct word, yes, Inigo has got it too. The word, of course, is contestant. So the first ever contestant to win the talent show America's Got Talent was only 11 years old. Now, we have presented or tested the vocabulary, but now we're going to have fun guessing, is that sentence true or is it false? Again, in the chat box, can you tell me, what do you think? Is it true or is it false? The contestant was 11 years old. Ralitza thinks true, true, true. Somebody says false. If somebody could tell me the name of the first ever contestant to win America's Got Talent, I would be very impressed. In fact, the sentence is completely true. Okay, so the singer Bianca Ryan won in 2006 at the age of 11. And I've just heard her sing now as I was checking the answer to this question, and she does sing, in fact, extremely well. So we're doing two things, okay? We are checking vocabulary, we're checking grammar, and we've also got a nice game-like competitive element to see if you can guess the correct answers. Now, of course, another way, as I mentioned before, another way that we can use quizzes is checking general knowledge, or knowledge of a specific subject or topic. And one of my favorite ways of using a quiz is using it to generate interest in a listening text or in a reading text. So we're going to do that now. Imagine we're going to listen to a podcast about chocolate. Okay, now everybody loves chocolate, right, at this time of the year. But before we listen to our podcast, we're going to generate some interest by asking some quiz questions, finding out what the students know. If they know the answer, great. If they don't know the answer, that's also great, because then we have a really strong reason to then listen to the podcast. Now, my question for you again in the chat box, today is a day of quizzes. My question for you is question number 2. What was the meaning of the word chocolate in its original language? Do we have any ideas? Can anybody guess what chocolate means? Slavka says bitter. Natya says medicine. Bitter drink, says Kate. Cocoa beans, medicine, sweet. And Mohammed has got exactly the correct answer. The answer was, in fact, bitter water. And the word chocolate, of course, comes from Mexico, from the Nahuatl language, from Central America and Mexico. It means bitter water. And Nahuatl also gives us the words coyote, chili, and tomato. Okay, so very, very impressive that many of you have got the correct answer. But I'm going to insist again, if your students don't know the answer, that really is not a problem, because you're going to give them this answer in the form of a text. So why not use a quiz then to generate interest in the reading text or the listening test that you plan to do in your lesson? And we could do it as prediction, which is what I'm suggesting here, or we could turn the activity around. So the students could listen first, and then then you give them the quiz, and we're using the quiz as a simple way of checking comprehension of the text. So that's just another idea for using this sort of general knowledge, real world content quiz as a way of generating interest in texts, whether they're reading or they're listening. Now, this is a short session. There are many other types of quiz we could use. We could have a quiz to see personality, personalization. A simple way then of getting information about the student's personality. We can even do a quiz about your course book. Is this sentence about your book, is it true or false? A great way to begin the term to check that the students know about their course book, or maybe even about their school. Lots and lots of different types of quizzes that we can use. Now, we've also got great flexibility in terms of quiz questions. Yeah, Martin's had a great idea about a quiz for future hopes plans. That would be a great idea. Now, we've got lots of flexibility in quiz questions. We've already seen some types of quiz questions, maybe in the chat box. What type of quiz questions have we seen so far? Would anybody like to remind us? What type of question have we seen so far? We've seen multiple choice. Thank you, Irina. Exactly. We've seen multiple choice. We've seen open questions. We could have fill in the gaps. Absolutely. So here are some ideas. We can have true, false questions. We can have choose the correct alternative, giving 2 alternatives. We can have multiple choice with 3 options, 4 options, more. We could also have matching. Somebody's mentioned matching. Yeah, my list is definitely not complete, so that would be good. Somebody's mentioned right and wrong, yes, no. Of course, question 4, open questions. Yeah, we can have open questions like my question about chocolate. And what we can also do is have a lovely motivating combination of different types of question. And that's what we're going to do in our end of year quiz in about 5 minutes. Are you excited to do an end of year quiz with me at the end of this session? Just type in the box yes or no. If you're not excited about it, we're still going to do it. Okay, I'm sorry because it's planned, but yes, you're excited. That is great. Who prepares the questions in a quiz? Okay, who prepares the questions? Well, Obviously, the first person to prepare questions is you, the teacher. That's obvious because you're the teacher, you know what they know, you know what you want to check, you know what you want to teach them. So that would be an obvious place to start. But as Susanna has exactly said at this very second, what about getting the students to prepare questions? Your students could choose an area that they are interested in and that they are experts in. So get them to prepare the questions for you or obviously for other students in the class. So we're maximizing participation, we're maximizing motivation. Of course, your coursebook may well have quizzes or the Teacher Resource Center. And obviously, in course books such as mine, like the examples that we've seen, you're bound to find some motivating quizzes in there. You could also obviously search online. There are many websites, and people have been mentioning in the chat box different websites that you can use to prepare quizzes, but you can search online for any information. It's extremely easy. If you want to find a quiz about cinema, you can find one immediately. There are also, of course, famous board games. There are card games. I actually use these cards. So I have a set of cards that I've used for 20 years, and they're just general knowledge questions that are pre-prepared. And this is really good to know, Macmillan Education and Kahoot, we've mentioned them before. They have come together to prepare quizzes for you for grammar and vocabulary, which are all ready for you to use. All of the different levels are labeled, and you can also find quizzes which are specially made for coursebooks, as Mohammed has just pointed out. There are quizzes which are ready-made for your coursebook, and that just makes it so easy to find something immediately. Now, of course, with any classroom activity, there are always some possible potential problems and some practical questions to think about. By the way, yes, so Ola has asked, if you simply Google Macmillan Education Kahoot, you should be able to find that immediately. I'm sure you will be able to find it straight away. Some practicalities and potential problems. When you're doing quizzes in teams, I always recommend that you choose one spokesperson for each team. That simply avoids lots of people screaming out answers at the same time. It gives a bit of order, a bit of discipline. As Martin has said, a captain, choose a captain. The captain is not the person who decides the answer, but the captain is the person who gives you the answer. And it helps to keep much better clarity and control in terms of doing the quiz. We've mentioned the idea of students preparing their own quiz questions, which I think is a great idea. But my tip is that when your students prepare the quiz questions, remember to get them to prepare the answer key too, because if not, you can end up with a quiz with some great questions, but nobody knows the answer. So when the students prepare the quiz, get them to prepare the answers too. One thing that could happen sometimes with a quiz is you get what I call prediction frustration. I asked you what chocolate means in its original language. Some students will say, how should I know? I have no idea. I've never thought about this question before. Now, I just simply remind my students not to worry. This is not a test. This is not a formal test. They will not lose marks or have any problems if they don't know the answer. Encourage your students to have a wild guess. Just have a guess. The good thing with wild guesses is when they are right, you feel absolutely amazing. If they're wrong, sometimes they're funny answers. We're not checking their knowledge at this moment. If they don't know the answer, we're going to tell them the answer. So tell them not to panic if they don't really know. Another question is prizes. Do you give prizes in your quiz? I'm not a big fan of prizes. They can cost money. If you give sweets, you might have to pay for the students' dentist bills. So I particularly think that prizes are not necessary. The prize is simply being involved and enjoying the quiz. And that's connected with my last practicality. Sometimes students are very competitive. I'm sure you know, if you teach teenagers, primary students too, they start worrying about who wins, and they get obsessed with fairness. Fairness is obviously important, but basically when students get too competitive, I simply remind them, why are we doing what we're doing? We're doing this to learn something, to practice some English, to have a good time, to relax, to unwind. If they are getting overstressed because of competitiveness, I give them the option to continue with the quiz in a calm fashion, or we can simply stop. And with my students, that usually persuades them simply to calm down and enjoy the activity. Now, I've talked about types of quizzes. I've talked about types of quiz questions. I've talked about who prepares the quiz, and I've talked about some practicalities with quizzes. So now, because it's the end of term, because it's the end of the year, it is quiz time 2021. Get your fingers ready on buzzers, or get your finger ready on your mouse, because we're going to do a little quiz, a light-hearted quiz. What is the prize? Because I can see that some of you do like prizes. What is the prize today for getting the questions right? Well, it's a very, very special prize for you today. It is a big, warm, fuzzy, glowing feeling inside, okay? And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, okay? You know when you just feel good because you're so clever and you're so amazing and brilliant? That is exactly the prize that you're going to get today, okay? What is the prize if you get some of the questions wrong? Well, the prize is an even bigger, warmer, fuzzier feeling because you have taken part and you've learned something new. So that's lots of fun. What happens if you get everything, every single question wrong? Well, here's my second hat today, and I don't know if you can read that, but my hat says, oh dear. Okay, I think you can see that. If you get everything wrong, don't worry, okay? We'll just say, oh dear. We're going to look on the bright side of life, okay? So I'm going to switch on my lights, okay? I hope you appreciate my special effort today, my lights. So here we go. Oh dear, dear David. Yes, exactly. Here we go. We're going to begin with a poll. Now, if you use Zoom, you may well know that you can do this type of thing. You can do a poll with Zoom. Can you please, not in the chat box, but in the poll box, can you vote for what you think is the answer to this question? By the end of this talk, I will have been speaking for over half an hour. This is an example of the future perfect simple, the future continuous, the future perfect passive, or the future perfect continuous. Lots of you are voting. Lots of you are voting. This is actually really exciting. There are hundreds and hundreds of people voting right now. I'm going to give you 5 more seconds, and then I'm going to stop the poll and show you your answers. Okay, literally hundreds of you have answered. Your answers, by the way, are anonymous. Well, I'm going to show you what you've written, okay? Your answers. So 400 out of 451 people have chosen the answer, the future perfect continuous. And that means that 400 people were completely correct, okay? So you got the correct answer. It was the future perfect continuous. And I'm sure lots of you out there are feeling very, very warm and fuzzy and glowing right now. I hope I'm right. I've got another question for you, okay? Here's my second question. Let me go to the next question. Question 2, again, in the poll box, please answer this question for me. What was the title of the Dua Lipa album of the year at the Brit Awards? Future Perfect Continuous, the Past Perfect. It could be. We've got actually. I've just spotted that we've got 2 Future Perfect Continuouses. That's a mistake. Lots of answers here. There are 4 different options. Hundreds of people are answering right now. And I'm going to stop the poll. It's going very, very well. You have to be very fast today because we have so little time. I'm going to stop the poll. I'm going to share your answers. And again, the vast majority of people got the correct answer. Past Perfect sounds like a good title for an album, but in fact, the title was Future Nostalgia. Okay, great. We're going to do one more poll. Okay, we're going to do question 3. And here we go. This is a nice question. I think you're going to enjoy this question. According to Forbes, the highest paid actor in the world in 2021 was Ryan Reynolds. I think he's in Deadpool. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Go fast, fast, fast. Daniel Craig, who is, of course, James Bond. And by the way, he was born near Liverpool, where I am from. Or is it Akshay Kumar? Okay, there are lots of people who are feeling very fuzzy and warm. I hope you feel fuzzy and warm after this one. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I'm going to stop the voting. I think people are divided on this one. People are very divided. I'm going to show you your answers, okay? Here are the answers that you've said. Ryan Reynolds is in 3rd place. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is in 2nd place, and Daniel Craig is in 1st place. But in fact, only 48 people have given me the correct answer, because the answer was, and I've forgotten to show you the other answer here, that was Future Nostalgia was the 2nd answer. And the answer to that question was Akshay Kumar. Okay, so 48 people must be feeling extremely warm and fuzzy because, oh dear, yes, exactly. Akshay Kumar is a very famous Bollywood actor, born in India. He is now a Canadian national. He's made over 100 films, and he is extremely popular in many parts of the world. Okay, I've got 3 more questions for you, and these answers are not polls. I would like you to answer in the chat box as quickly as you can. So write your answer in the chat box. Abdul Razak Gurna was the winner of the 2021 Nobel Prize in Literature. Is it true or false that he was born on the island of Zanzibar? Lots of people saying false, true. Wow, lots of answers coming in. This is fascinating. I would say it's about 50-50 from what I can see. Thank you, by the way, for this massive participation. It is a joy to watch all of your answers. I'm going to tell you the answer. The answer is, in fact, true. Okay, so he was born in Zanzibar, which today is in Tanzania. Okay, I think it was once a British protectorate when he was born, but it is now Tanzania. And Abdul Razak Gurna, he actually writes in English and he lives in Kent in England. I think Annette is not feeling so warm and glowing at the moment, but here's another question for you. I think this one is maybe easier. 2021, the Oscar for the Best Animated Film went to the Disney Pixar movie Soul. But here's a question for you. Which was the first ever Pixar movie? We've got a lot of Toy Stories. We've got a Shrek in there. We've got an Ice Age, The Lion King, Shrek, Finding Nemo. That's another possibility. Actually, nobody has mentioned a film which I thought it was. I thought it was A Bug's Life. Okay, but it is not A Bug's Life. Most of you have got the correct answer. It was Toy Story. And here is Buzz Lightyear to say hello to you all. And my last question of the day, and this is guaranteed to give you a big, big, warm, fuzzy feeling. Okay, on a TV special this year, who did the singer Adele thank for helping her so much when she was young, before she was famous? Brilliant answers, brilliant answers. Now, if this doesn't make you feel warm and fuzzy, then nothing will, because Adele gave a beautiful speech about her English teacher, okay? And it's very nice that a famous person like Adele should remember her English teacher now that she is famous. And it just makes you realize, of course, how important we are to our students. Now, I'm sure that you're feeling as warm and as fuzzy as if you'd had a beautiful hot chocolate with marshmallows in it. Thanks so much for all of your participation. I'm not sure if you might have any questions for me. Remember, Irina, if you have lost, then you've learned a lot then today, okay? I hope you've learned a lot, all about lots of famous actors and famous singers and Toy Story and Pixar.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining me. Yeah, Louise, great to see you again.
Fantastic. No, and it's not about winning or losing. I think it's, somebody said in the chat box, process rather than product. And this process has been very effective. We've all participated. Look at the comments coming through. And hats off to you, Dave, for your control. Don't take it off. I won't take mine off. To your being able to manage the chat box so well with all these comments and answers coming in so quickly. It's been amazing, and thank you to everybody for your participation. As you said, it's extraordinary, actually.
Yes, I love this. I'm just so grateful for all of this participation. It's really great, and you know, I think quizzes are just a great thing to do with your class, because you know, whenever I do a quiz, I always find the students, you know, they are really keen to answer and to have a go, and you know, that's what it's about. So, by the way, remember everybody that you will be getting that PDF of some of those questions for you to do with your students. Obviously, you can make your own quiz, but if you would like to use my PDF, then that would be great too. So I hope you enjoy it.
There are a couple of questions actually that I've noted down that I'd like to put to you that have come in from people. There's a question, which one should we focus on while evaluating students at the end of term or year performance? So should we use a quiz or a test?
Right, so yeah. So I mean, definitely in my definition of quiz, what I'm talking about is using this for fun, light-hearted, engaging, no anxiety. So I wouldn't use this type of quiz necessarily then for testing or for evaluation. Now, of course, my grammar questions at the beginning, my vocabulary and grammar questions, they are similar to test questions. So it's all a question of what do you want from the activity? So if you want to use, you know, those multiple choice grammar questions as a test, but you'll be doing that, I imagine, with the students individually instead of this whole group team dynamic as a competitive game. So we're saying that the same material could be used for a test, or it could be used as a light-hearted quiz. Today, definitely what I'm talking about is a way of unwinding at the end of the year, of having some fun, you know, and getting the students really engaged and motivated. So yeah, today, definitely I'm talking about not evaluation. Absolutely.
But as we have seen, and as you've explained so clearly, the quiz has, in terms of its type, and when you can use them and the content, it's extremely flexible. So if you did want to use it as a kind of formative assessment or some way of gauging students' learning, you could obviously do that. But today, as you say, we want to have fun, don't we? And we want to end the year.
That's right. Somebody's just mentioned in the chat box, I'm not sure that the name was JF something, but somebody mentioned that, of course, you can do a quiz before you do the test. So that's a nice way of sort of, you know, sort of informal, non-threatening revision. And then, you know, maybe your quiz is similar to your test, but you've given them nice preparation in a non-threatening, non-stressful environment. So that's a nice idea. Do the quiz as revision and then do the test.
Exactly. And there's one more question. How do you deal with a situation, well, with student-generated quizzes that have errors in them? How would you approach that? Would you ignore it? Would you?
Sorry, could you repeat? I suddenly got distracted for a second.
No problem. How would you deal with student-generated quizzes that have errors, grammatical, etc.?
Right. So I
spelling
think
errors?
that's a very good question. I think the key for me would be, for example, if the students are actually preparing a grammar quiz or a vocabulary quiz, then I'm going to have to make sure that I'm monitoring and making sure that it is correct. Because what I don't want to be doing is to be generating incorrect grammar and vocabulary, if that is the aim of my quiz. I think if my students are preparing a general knowledge quiz, I think there I'm going to be less concerned, as long as the question is communicatively clear. If we can all understand the question, in that case, then I'm probably going to be less worried about 100% grammatical accuracy. So it depends. What is the focus of my quiz? Is it trivia, general knowledge, or is it language? If it's language, then I think I would suggest making sure by checking, monitoring that the language is definitely correct. Because as I say, you don't want to be spreading this incorrect language. However, if it's a quiz about the end of year and you're going to do this next week, it's our last day at school, then I think that as long as we all understand the question, then I think I would be more or less happy.